Hello my friends, welcome back to another tutorial. I hope you're all keeping very well and having a great time painting and learning lots of different techniques. And I hope this channel is helping you with your painting and helping you get to grips with oils as well. That's my aim, just to help you out, try and simplify things as much as I can. Trees. I know a lot of people struggle with trees. I did for a very long time. Sometimes I do, sometimes. But I wanted to show you a little tutorial on painting trees. And when I say trees, I don't mean trees on their own, as in a trunk with loads of branches coming off and foliage and that kind of thing. That's for another day. There's a little bit of that in this tutorial, but primarily I wanted to focus on showing you how to paint lots of little trees bunched up together on the side of a river. Okay, so lots of different shapes and lights and darks where you have one going in front of the other as they go off into the distance. So, a bunch of trees in a row. They're, I suppose you could say bushes, big bushes, but they're trees. But it's just lots of thick foliage. There's no tree trunks, just lots of trees bunched up together, okay, all the way along the riverbank. That's what I want to focus on today. I'll keep it simple. I'll show you in a couple of nice, easy to follow steps, just nice basic steps. No complicated terminology, none of that, just painting nice trees and getting nice foliage on trees and showing you what type of brushes I use and how to create the texture of that brush to get the trees just right. Colours, lights and darks, getting the highlights on the edges of the trees, so all of that. I have a nice little canvas here. It's a 14 by 18 canvas. It's an unusual size, very unusual kind of a size for a canvas. It's not something that I would see a lot in art stores, but I've spotted these and they're just a nice size, I think, for something like this. So I have a landscape which I photographed here in Cork. It's the River Lee in Cork City. Standing on the bank, looking across the river, a row of lovely trees going off, a bit of a green in front of us just as we're standing, and some nice reflections. So I think it'll make a nice tutorial, for you to get to grips with painting foliage and painting trees, okay? Let's have a bit of fun with this. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learn a little thing or two about painting trees. Okay, let's go. Let's have a bit of fun with this. I'll be right back. All right, here we go, my friends. There's a reference photograph up there. Now, that is a lovely photograph. I took it myself. It's quite nice. Nice, simple scene. Trees, reflections, bit of grass, some nice tree trunk here and there. I'm going to try and simplify this for you. All right. I have a quick sketch done. Just a line across my riverbank over. A quick rough line of the trees and my bank here. That's all we need. I have a nice variety of colours here. I'm going to put the colour list in the link below. I have a nice variety just so I have the option if I want to. We may not use all of these, okay? So I'm going to start. Now, I primed my canvas once, very lightly, just with a quick coat of white undercoat, water-based. It's dry. I rubbed it with some very fine sandpaper to make it lovely and smooth. So let's start. I have some thinners, turpentine and a little linseed oil mixed in. Let's put in a nice bright blue sky, a whitey blue. Okay, you can see it up there. It's just, there's a hint of blue popping through here and there. Let's get some titanium white and a touch of phthalo blue. Tiny touch, there we go, that's loads. You could even make this a turquoisey blue if you want by adding a touch of Naples yellow to it. That would give it a nice kind of a turquoisey, bluey shade. So a very kind of a bright sunny sky kind of a blue. I think you'll agree. That's quite nice, I like that. Let's just go with that. Put this right across the top. And again, I am just keeping this so simple, I really am. The sky really is very insignificant in this painting. It's all about the trees and those reflections, okay? Just a bit more blue here now. Just a bit more blue up there. I'm just leaving little spots for my white. That's all I'm doing, okay? Just little spots here and there. Small bit down there like that, look. Now, I'm going to clean that brush just very quickly, dip it into some turpentine, dry it on some tissue really well. Let's grab some white and just pop a little bit of white across here and there, look. Just scrape it across. I'm using the corner of my brush. Just pick up some white, corner of your brush. This is really not important, the sky. It's just a hint of cloud here and there. Nothing fancy, all right? But you can add clouds with shadows and all of that if you like doing that kind of thing. Absolutely. Please do. I'd encourage you to try whatever you feel comfortable with trying. But I'm just keeping all of this nice and simple. Look, that's all. Nice simple sky done. Let's take a soft brush. Let's just soften some of this away. Let's just leave that disappear off into the distance. There we go. That sky is finished. Nice simple sky. Little bit of a blue sky. Some white clouds. Done. Here we go. This is what we're here for. Trees. Now this is only just slightly rough. We go higher than this and lower, whatever we need to do. You see all those lovely little trees we have? What I tend to do when painting trees is I start with a darker colour. Okay, I find that's the fastest way of painting trees. And the easiest way of painting trees. So I start with a dark, rich, dark green, okay? I'm going to just dampen this ever so slightly and dry it on the tissue, just to make sure it's clean. There's no other paint inside there. A dark, rich green, I find lamp black and cadmium yellow. Lots of thick cadmium yellow in this now. I find that mix is perfect for a very dark green, okay? And you can add little bits of each, depending on how dark you want your trees. Now, if you want to go, this is kind of more of a warm dark green, this colour I'm using, so it's more of a rich summer type of green. Look, I'll show you. So you can see that's a rich dark, kind of an olive, almost an olive green. We can go a bit darker if we wish, like so. And just fix this here now. So you can also add hints of blue to make it a dark, cool green. So a little bit of phthalo blue. And now what you see we have is a very cool dark green. There's a lot of blue in this. So I'm basically going to try and get a kind of a mix of both in between, if you understand what I mean. I'm just going to mess around with my colour, take maybe a bit of all three. And that gives us a nice, rich, vibrant tree, a kind of a dark tree green, okay? I'm going to start with that. I want to keep the colours of these trees very, very vibrant, all right? We can go up into our sky a bit if we like. And this is quite a thin mix. It's not very, very thick. You can see what I mean. Look, it's just a kind of a dryish type of a brush. A tiny touch of thinner just to thin it initially. Otherwise, it'll end up like a palette knife painting. It'll be very thick, so I'm just thinning it ever so slightly. I'm going to go up higher. Now what I'm doing is just simply dabbing. Dab, 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 dab. And the mistake I find a lot of people are making is they make it too uniform. So they'll just go like this, all the way down like this. And it looks too uniform, doesn't it? What you need to try and do is just vary it a little bit. So go up like that, look. Then go up another little bit. Then we can just dab it along and go up again. So make it varied all the way along. I find that really is, you know, that captures the natural shape of trees, because trees will just go in their own way naturally. Most of the time they'll never have a straight line completely. Let's come down and bring this down at a bit of an angle. I just want to come down a little bit further with this. I just took some dark colour just to get our line in so we know roughly where we're going. Now as I go off into the distance, you can see they lighten up, so I'm going to stop my dark colour here. I'm just going to come along now, and I just want to mix this dark piece I just put in into the trees. I'm going to go up a bit higher with one or two of these, look. Just really to give it a bit of an impact, all right? There we go. I think that's a bit better. And maybe one or two here. Simply dabbing. Dab, 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 dab. Now as we go off into the distance, I just want to use pretty much some cadmium yellow and a hint of blue perhaps. So this is going to be the darker side of those pale trees off in the distance. this would be sort of the darker shade of all of those. Mix it in, and away we go. Now, again, maybe we need to go a bit higher. I think we need to go a bit higher with some of these around this side here, because there's lots of clumps of trees here, isn't there? I'm going to go just slightly higher. I really want to make a good impact with these trees, for you especially, just to show you how to get these different tones, lights and darks, in between all of these trees. I just want to show you how I do that. Now again, this is how I do this. You may have an easier way of doing these trees. So I have a nice dark rich green. You see those kind of natural highs and darks, highlights and darks going through it. We have that nice natural kind of a feeling. I am going to just kind of step out here and there, down here, just so it's not a completely straight line, so to speak, all right? That's all. Now I'm going to start taking some really dark colours. I am going to take some Phaylo blue, again a dry brush, no thinners. Phaylo blue, some black, a little bit of cadmium yellow. So this now is a real blacky green, all right? You can see we have a nice dark one here. So I'm just going to go around, so as if we're painting the negative of the tree. So I'm starting with my dark. This is going to be a highlight area, all here, look. That's going to be the highlight of the next tree. So I'm going to go in around that, get my dark right in there, soften it outwards, okay? Dab, 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 dab. There we go. So now we have the dark of our first tree in there. I'm going to come down here and just start adding some darks in along the bottom as well. So my idea is I want to get the darks in first. I want to just get all my darks in first. And I'm hardly even looking at the reference photograph now, I'll be honest. I'm hardly even looking at it. You can just kind of make this your own. And normally I would make this my own, but I want this scene to be recognisable by people here in Cork. So I'm trying to kind of make it as close to the original as possible, but not a photograph, okay? Just remember, we're not painting a photograph, we're painting an impression. It's an oil painting. Now I'm just using kind of the edge of my brush, just sort of to mess up the edges of the tops, okay? You see that? I'm just very gently, dab, 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 just to make it, just dabbing little touches of foliage here and there on the tips of the trees. You see? I know it doesn't look exactly the same tree-wise because, look, every week these trees are going to change anyway. They're going to get bigger, smaller, they're going to change colours and all of that. So they're going to be completely different almost every week you take a photograph. That's what I find. Now what I've done here was, the colour I had on it, I mixed it into the white. And as you mix it into the white, it lightens and it creates this beautiful faded green colour. You see that? And that gives you a lovely depth in the painting, doesn't it? It kind of pushes everything off into the distance. You see what I mean? I think that is just wonderful. So because we're painting wet onto wet, we're able to do this. So you can see how they look like they're kind of behind and they look like they're off in the distance. And that's nice. I like that. Next, I'm going to start putting in some rich medium shades. So I'm going for the middle shade this time. So when I'm painting trees, basically I have a dark, a middle and a light. Okay? That's my system for painting trees. So the next colour is, I'm just going to take some, maybe some rich cadmium yellow, lots of thick paint and a touch of Sienna, perhaps. That gives you a beautiful, rich, dull, kind of a browny yellow, all right? Kind of an autumny yellow. You could take a touch of Phaylo blue into that, if you want. That will give us our next sort of rich, you see that? That rich kind of green. It's kind of more of a yellowy kind of a shade, I suppose. But it's a little bit too dark still. I want to take some white, put a little bit of white, maybe a touch more blue. And I'm just going to try that. That's a bit better now, you see. I'm going to take this colour and soften it down as it disappears down into the colour underneath. Always clean the tip of your brush each time you're doing this, okay? So for instance, I'll take my cadmium yellow, hint of Naples. There's already a green in here anyway. And let's go over and try this one. So we have a dark. I'm going to go in front of that dark now with this next sort of tree here. And I'm just kind of twisting my brush and turning it as I go, like this. Now I'm going to soften that. We take a bit of Phaylo blue with yellow. I'm going to soften that down into the dark, okay? I'm gently tapping, tap, 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 until it disappears into that darker colour underneath. So you can see we have one nice bush kind of standing out, don't we? Now let's try some Phaylo blue, cadmium yellow, and some white. And that will give us a nice highlighted kind of a bright green colour. I'm going to try that over here. Just dabbing it along the top edge and softening it back down inwards again. Then I'm going to take some cadmium yellow, some burnt sienna. I want to add a bit of colour into all of this. So, cadmium yellow, burnt sienna, gently dabbing that in there like that. So now you can see we have two nice trees, one in front of the other, don't we? And it gives a nice effect. So it's a case of just, you know, picking the colours that you like and having some fun with the colours. See, can you put them on nice and kind of bright? And you can see how I'm using my brush. It's very sort of opened. You see my brush? I don't know if you can see that now. It's very kind of opened up. It is a natural, soft, flat brush, but when you fill it with paint, it just opens up lovely. It just opens up very slightly and allows you to get this lovely kind of foliage texture on the canvas. It's very kind of random, and I love that about these flat brushes. It's just a simple, cheap, flat brush, okay? That's all it is. Let's go over here now and do the same. I'm just dabbing this very kind of randomly, but I'm keeping to the left hand side of the bush, if you know what I mean. I'm leaving the darks there. So you can see what I mean? I'm leaving the darks as they are. I'm just kind of starting on the left hand side and softening them across. And that's then how you just create these different shapes of bushes. You get the light and the dark. You see what I mean? Just like that, look. Now let's take some just yellow. Let's add a nice bright yellow to this one here. Just create a bit more of a shape. It's completely up to you what colours you like to use. You might like to use brighter colours than me. I like to keep it kind of slightly subdued. I'm going to go up and add a little bit of that colour to this one here. So starting on the left, look, and softening it backwards into the tree. At the same time that I'm doing this, I'm thinking just keeping it slightly random as well. That's very important, all right? Keeping it slightly random, so not having everything the same shape all the way along. So I could go up here and I could just maybe add a slightly brighter one up here. And I could cut it in front of this one with another one, look. You see? So you're creating different layers. That's all it is. You're putting one in front of the other. If you like, you could start from the top and just work down and put brighter shades in front of each one. That's another way you could actually do this as well. But this is a learning process. I'm going to try another one here now, look. Coming around and going up and disappearing back in again. And I find they look nice and natural as well. They look just natural. I know there's a lot of artists and tutorials out there on using the fan brush. I use a fan brush a lot for trees as well, but sometimes just a brush is the most satisfying way. I'm going to take some cadmium yellow now, just white with this bluey colour. Very bright highlight. I'm going to get some really bright highlights on the edges of these where the sun is really hitting down on these. And you see, I'm just kind of jumping around on the canvas with little clumps, little bits of the bush, okay? I'm not filling big huge chunks of trees with colour. I'm just kind of going along the edges, and then I might come down here and add another bit of light. I might come up here, add another little bit of light. What you need to be careful with is not putting too much paint on, because you will end up, it will get very messy if you have too much paint on this. So I'm very gently just taking little tiny hints of colour. A little bit of Sienna, perhaps. I'm just going to pop a little highlight here and there, just on some of the edges. Okay? I'm going to come over here and do the same. There's a bit more white in my brush, just to capture a few of the highlights. Now, already, I think that don't look too bad. Colour-wise, it could be a bit more of the rich green side, but it's fine. It really is fine. It's a natural kind of a row of trees, isn't it? I'm not going for pop, jump out kind of colours in my trees. I'm not going for that. If you wanted to, let's just say that take a bit of cadmium yellow, tiny touch of phthalo blue. If you wanted to really give it a punch, we could put some of that in there. Just dab that rich, bright, bluey, greeny shade. If you really wanted to go for a punchy kind of a green, you could. That will just liven it up slightly. Go along here. Now, you could leave it at that. That's absolutely fine. But if you want to really give it a proper, at the very last step, let's say we want to give it a proper impact, we want to go for a real, so, you know, you could use a palette knife, or you could use a fan brush. I'm going to try a fan brush on this. Cadmium yellow and some white. Let's suppose we just want to hit the edges with some real thick highlights, look. Just go along on the left-hand edges and just dab a little bit on with your fan brush, just very gently, and again, keep it random. And soften it back in. So you can see what I mean now, it just adds that extra bit of texture to the bushes. Or trees. They are trees, aren't they? Let's just call them trees. Now that gives a nice punch, doesn't it? I'm going to leave them at that. I think there's enough done. We don't really need to keep going at these and at these. If you want to go back in and add a little bit of darkness into them, you just go along and add a touch of darkness here and there, just to sit them down at the river bank, if you know what I mean. You see, just to sit them down. Just a little. We are going to do our reflections next and see how it goes. You can see we've lovely blue going across. So what I'm going to do first is come down here. I'm going to add some light blue into this. So let's take our big brush, take some phthalo blue with a bit of white. Now look, even if you want a bit of green, again, a little bit of turquoise green would be nice. I'm going to first just add a little bit of a nice blue into, there's actually a bit of magenta in this as well. I can see a touch of magenta in that blue. It's a nice warm kind of a royal blue. I think that's better. When you're painting reflections like this, I always say to people, I always try and kind of encourage people to bring it down, okay? You can go left and right, but ultimately I like to bring my brush strokes down like this as it comes over into the distance. It's almost white up here, isn't it? So I'm not concentrating on the trees, I'm just putting in the whitey bluey sections of the water first, okay? I'm going to take a touch more blue, just for here. Next I'm going to clean my brush. And then we're going into the dark greens, okay? Typically when you're painting reflections, this is a good thing to bear in mind. The colour of your reflections will always be much darker than what you're reflecting. So any greens here will be slightly darker. That's the only thing you need to think about when painting reflections, and that goes for everything. Because you have the depth of the water, which you need to account for. So it's going to be darker in the water. So I'm going to put this rich dark green, right, all the way across. And again, you can change this a bit as you go along. You can add more or less. It's up to yourself. I'm just going to go along. And I'm even catching the paint on the edge. I'm catching that dark colour and I'm dragging it down, you see? And that gives you an automatic reflection. Just like that. It makes it so easy. So I'm just using the very tip of my brush. I'm just flicking that paint that's actually there down. Come up here and keep going, drag it all down. Try and be completely vertical with all of this, okay? You're stretching your reflections. Now we're going down into that white, you see? We're picking up the white, we're picking up the green, merging them together ever so slightly. Now, doesn't that look so natural, those reflections so far? Let's get some nice thicker paint going. Bit of cadmium yellow and a bit of phthalo blue, bit of black. Let's come down all the way. You can see they're quite dark, aren't they? And because we're going into this whitey colour, it's going to be much more difficult to get it to stick and to cover. But that's fine. Let's just bring it down, flick it back up. I'm going to start taking some Sienna, some cadmium yellow, blue, phthalo blue is very important. Now, how's this looking so far? I'm now going to go with some rich darker colour. Okay, you can see they're very black, aren't they, in the reflections. Let's get some black and phthalo blue. Little hint of yellow. And I'm going to start from the bottom and just pull that colour up. Like so. Pick up some yellow and I'm going to just start dragging where the highlights are. Start dragging some of those colours down. A lot of this is going to be covered, so don't worry too much, okay? A lot of this will be covered in with ripples and all of that, so don't be too worried about getting this absolutely perfect. Now, let's stop at that. The next thing I want to do, I need some more cadmium yellow. I'm going to start putting in some highlights. And it's so easy to do. Literally, let's just grab the same brush, give it a clean. Let's grab some yellow, okay? Wherever you see highlights, let's put some yellow in. Drag it down like that, look. Okay? Another little bit of yellow. Drag it down like that, following the shape. So you're following the direction. You see this curve here? Let's put some yellow in here and bring it down at an angle like that. You see that? Same here. A little bit there. We have some bright ones as well. Let's not forget the really bright ones. Nice bright ones here, coming down, and there's a bit of a curve. And that's all you have to do, my friends. That's all you have to do. Just follow. You could, in fact, turn the canvas upside down. So if I turn this canvas upside down, just to show you, you can see you're painting trees in the opposite direction. That's all it is. That's all you're doing. You're just going in the opposite direction of what you did. Upside down, like that. Now I think that's fine. I'm going to leave it. There's no point in going on and on and on with this, because there's a very good chance I could mess it up if I keep going. So what I'm going to do is take a very soft brush, very, very, very soft brush, and pull down. Very gently, barely touching the canvas. I just want to pull everything together, merge them all nicely together. That's all. Look. And then we go across. We get nice soft reflections, nice and soft. And there we go. I think that's one very nice reflection. The next thing we're going to do is, I think, palette knife. My palette knife is calling me. For some reason, it's just calling me. I'm going to take some phthalo blue, loads of white. I'm going to put a nice rich phthalo blue and white, so a nice rich blue, over some of this. Let's use the edge of our knives. Pick up some of that nice rich blue. Let's go up here, and remember, these have to be completely vertical, okay? Or sorry, horizontal. They have to be completely horizontal all the time. So I'm going to start here, and I'm just going to kind of hit and miss and scrape. And what I'm doing is, I'm wiggling this from side to side as I move it around, look. And you see how that gives you that beautiful texture. You see that lovely texture we get. And it's just that easy. That's all you have to do, my friends, all the way along. You can do less or more. It's completely up to yourself. How far you go with this is completely up to you, okay? You're in charge, it's up to you. I would say just be careful, don't overdo it, because there's a chance you could spoil what you have. I'm just going to give it a quick kind of, barely touching the canvas, just letting the canvas drag the paint here and there. I don't want to go crazy. I don't want to cover the entire canvas with all this blue. I just want to give the suggestion of moving water, that it's just very kind of, the wind is blowing, and you know the way the wind blows and it catches the water and it moves it along? That's just the impression I want to give, that's all. Just that impression. Down here. Then maybe just add some white into that colour. And I know there are videos online of people doing this with little pointy brushes, and they can be there for hours and hours and hours on end, putting in little tiny reflections and ripples of water. And I'll be honest, I do not have the patience for that, my friends. I'm not that kind of an artist. I'm a very sort of, let's do it now kind of an artist, okay? That's just the way I taught myself how to paint. I don't have the patience to be sitting for 2 hours painting each individual little leaf and each individual ripple on the water. I find it's just too time consuming, and I tend to lose the interest. Eventually, I just lose the interest. So that's why I just like giving a good impression. Just a nice little impression, a nice simple impression is sometimes the best. A little bit over here, under the bank. Now, do we need to go any further with that? I don't think so. I'm quite happy to leave it as it is. Maybe just soften some of them away. Go very gently over this with a soft brush. Take the edge off of them, and it keeps the reflection nice and soft, doesn't it? Now, how was that for part one? I think that's very, very nice. I think that's a very nice little simple suggestion of some trees and reflections. So I now must go and, let me just fix the camera. I have to go now and I'm going to get myself a coffee. I might charge this camera just for an extra 20 minutes because it's 44%. That might not be enough for part two. So I'll charge it up for 10 or 15 minutes. I'm going to grab a nice coffee. I suggest you do the same. Take a little break, grab a coffee, sit back, check your painting, have a look, see if you're happy with it, and we'll carry on with part two. I'll be right back with part two very shortly. Don't go anywhere. I hope you've enjoyed it, and please do like and subscribe to the channel and give me a thumbs up as well. I sincerely appreciate every support I get. Go on, I'll catch you in just a minute.